Hello everyone, for another video, and Happy New Year. If this video is going up when I hope it's going up, it should be New Year's Day, so get hype. We're finally over with the year. It's obviously been a pretty crazy year in a lot of different regards, been a hard year on many people, on pretty much everybody. I don't think anybody had a particularly great year this year, except for maybe billionaires, but you know, they're always having a good time. But this video, we're just here to relax, we're here to chill out. I just want to talk about some of the stuff that I enjoyed this year, some of the stuff that made this year a little bit easier on all of us, and also talking about the future stuff I want to do on this channel, and even some videos I have coming up pretty soon. We'll get to that stuff though, because first I want to talk about some games, because games were definitely the strongest pillar of this year. They definitely helped out a lot, and one of the games that helped out the most this year was Animal Crossing. I feel like Animal Crossing came out at the perfect time for everybody, when pretty much everyone was in quarantine, couldn't really go out anywhere, and then this game comes out where you can hang out with your little animal friends, and it's super peaceful and relaxing. It was definitely one of my favorites of this year, and it was just such a nice thing to see people who don't usually play games, people who I've never heard them ever talk about games, then suddenly be like, oh, I need to get a Switch, I need to get Animal Crossing, I want to play this game with everyone. I love when a game can do that, when it like brings everybody together in like this community aspect. That's one of my favorite things to see, and you see it time and time again with different games here and there, and it just kind of cements games as like being something bigger than a movie or a TV show. It can really bring people together in ways that I don't think other mediums can. That's part of the reason why I think games were such a strong thing this year, because while film and TV were kind of taking a break due to the pandemic, games were still coming out, and they give you something to do, and they allow you to hang out with people virtually, do things with your friends virtually, and I just think that's a really cool, important thing for times like this. Another great game I played was Final Fantasy VII Remake. That game is just so fun. It is definitely one of the most fun experiences I've had this year, just because the story was so well done, well told, and the combat was so good. It's like my favorite combat from like any Final Fantasy that I've played, where it's the action RPG that we've kind of come to learn and expect from more recent Final Fantasy titles, but the way that they incorporated like the kind of turn-based elements of the original Final Fantasy VII into it was just so smart. When you hit X and it brings up that command list, and it's like, here's all the spells you can use, here's like some special moves, limit breaks, stuff like that. It adds a layer of strategy to it all, where it's like, ooh, do I want to use fire magic on this guy, or do I use electricity magic? Which one does more damage? It reminds me of Persona 5, where, you know, you're fighting through enemies and you're trying to figure out their weaknesses, and once you figure it out, then you suddenly get a strategy. You're like, you know, you wail on them for a second, and then you use a spell, and then, or what do they call it in Persona? You use your persona, and it has a similar feeling to that, where you feel like you're really learning the enemy's weaknesses and strengths. And possibly my favorite game this year, honestly, was Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It feels a little weird to say that a Warriors game, a Musou game, was my favorite of the year, but I really enjoyed Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. It was not exactly what I expected, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. I was expecting just a straight retelling of the events before the Calamity War, before everything went to shit in Breath of the Wild. But it did something a little bit more interesting. It went on like a different diverging timeline, and while I wasn't expecting that, and I was certainly surprised when that happened, I really enjoyed it regardless, because there's so much fan service in this game, there's so much like fun stuff that happens, and there's so many cutscenes that like really just flesh out the world and the characters that I really appreciated. And on top of that, the gameplay is just fun. It definitely depends on if you're a Warriors guy or not, but I learned this year that I am. I like the Warriors format, and I especially like how it's done in Age of Calamity, where you have some elemental stuff with the wands, you have your Sheikah rune abilities, you have your standard heavy and light attack, and like a special move, and on top of that, imagine all that, and then you have like so many characters. I can't even remember how many there are. I think there's like 20-ish, I think. But you have this huge roster of characters, each with different moves, different abilities, and like even the Sheikah runes that they use are different. The way that Zelda uses her bombs and the way that Link uses his bombs are completely different, and that's just so cool. I really enjoyed the game. I'm still working through it to try and 100% it. Also, this isn't from this year, but it's just something I've been playing a lot recently. Nier Automata. This was a game that I bought in like 2018, and then I beat the A route, the first campaign, and then I was like, yeah, I'll get back to it later, because I wasn't really feeling like playing more of it at the time. I was a fool. I finally went back and did all of the rest of the campaigns, and Nier is just a really fantastic experience. I know it came out like 3 years ago, but I just highly recommend you all go play it, because now I'm just like, I'm going through, I'm doing all the side quests, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the game's universe and the world. I'm really excited for Replicant, which is coming out next year. Yeah, not a 2020 game, but I just wanted to mention it. There's also some pretty good anime that came out this year. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken was definitely, I'd say, my favorite of this year, just because it hits home with me, being about girls making anime and, you know, being really passionate about it, and I'm trying to be an animation major. It clicked with me in a lot of different ways, and the world that the girls live in is so beautiful, so unique, and it just looks like such a chill place. And the way the anime explores that world, I think, is really interesting. Because, you know, they're making anime. They're cooped up inside a lot of the time. But then they also, you know, if they want to relax, they go to this little restaurant area. Or they go here, they go there. And you get to see more of it slowly throughout the show. It's just something that I appreciate. And especially the way that they portray making anime is just really fun. The way that the girls' imaginations literally form the world around them is so cool. And the characters are so fun, the way they bounce off of each other. It's a perfect show to me. It's so good, so funny, so charming. I cannot recommend it enough. Another great show I watched was Moriarty the Patriot. This was one I didn't hear a lot of people talking about. I heard some people talking about Eizouken, you know, bringing it up here and there, but I really didn't see anybody talking about Moriarty, which is a shame, because I think it was one of the best of this year. It's a Sherlock Holmes anime that takes place from the perspective of Sherlock Holmes' enemy, Moriarty, and it's just so interesting seeing it from that perspective. It's not something I've seen done in any kind of like book or TV show or whatever before that, you know, is about Sherlock Holmes. I've never seen it from Moriarty's perspective, so I think that was just interesting right off the bat. And the way that they portray his work, which is basically he just gets revenge for people who have been wronged by upper class noble folk, and, you know, will go and usually most of the time just kill them because the noble people killed a commoner's son or did something horrible to the commoner. And the way that Moriarty gets revenge for these people is so satisfying. Every time it happens, you're like, hell yeah, that dude got what he deserved. It especially starts to get interesting when they bring in Sherlock Holmes around like the halfway point in the series, and it gets way more interesting. It feels a little formulaic at first. You think, oh, every episode's just gonna be meet a guy who's been wronged by a noble, and then they do some planning and they do some clever things, and then they kill the noble, and it's a happy ending, and they get away scot-free. But once Sherlock enters the scene and things start getting a bit more complicated and their operation gets a little bit bigger, that's when the show really gets good. And I'd be a fool if I did not at least mention Attack on Titan Season 4. It's still, you know, early in the show. I think there are 3 or 4 episodes out now. fantastic, obviously. Attack on Titan's always been fantastic. The only thing I can really say without spoiling it is go catch up if you are not already caught up, because I know a lot of people dropped Attack on Titan after the first season. It took a long time for that second season to come out, so it's understandable why a lot of people dropped it, but I just highly encourage everybody to go if you were one of those people who dropped the show because it took so long, or when you got into the second season you didn't remember anything, so you just were like, whatever. I highly recommend you either watch a recap of the events if you don't remember anything, or actually just go back and rewatch the show, because it's worth it. The payoff that you get in the later seasons, in season 3 and now starting with season 4, it's so worth it. The show gets better and better over time, and it's easily one of the best shonen of the past decade. It is incredible. I also want to briefly talk about some manga that I've been reading this year. I'm not sure if all of these came out in 2020. These are just some stuff that I've read in 2020 that I really enjoyed. One of my favorites of this year was a series called Spy X Family, which is about a husband who is a spy who hides his job by pretending to work as a therapist, a wife who is an assassin who pretends to work as an office worker, and their child who is a telepath who knows about their secret jobs. That setup alone should tell you how funny and crazy this series is, where they're hiding different things from each other while the kid knows, but the kid also can't let them know that she knows, and it creates all sorts of hijinks. It is so funny, so charming, so endearing. Oh, and also they're not really married, they're just kind of in it because they both have things to benefit from it. But as you know, with series like that, if you've ever read Wattpad fanfiction, you know how those go. They start actually getting along and actually becoming more of a real family. And it becomes such a cute, endearing series. One that I just cannot recommend enough. I've been loving what I've been reading of Spy X Family. There was also Sleepy Princess in the Demon Castle. This one actually got an anime this year as well, although I didn't list that in my anime thing because I would actually recommend the manga more. I think the manga is funnier than the anime. So the setup is, this girl, Princess Cialis, is kidnapped by the Demon King and is being taken hostage, and this hero named Donner is gonna go save her. It's the classic setup of the princess getting kidnapped and the hero having to save her, except the princess isn't actually really in need of saving. She is completely fine at the Demon Castle. She's treated pretty well, she's not being tortured or anything, and she doesn't have any plans of leaving either. She doesn't really care. All she wants to do is make her cell as comfy as possible, and the way she does that is by breaking out of her cell and causing havoc among the demons. She'll steal rare items to try and make her bedroom nicer, or drink dangerous potions to try and get a better night's sleep. Meanwhile, the demons have to try and make sure that she doesn't die too much, because this is kind of an RPG world where they come back to life, but it's a strenuous process trying to bring her back to life. So they're trying their hardest to make sure that she doesn't break out, she doesn't cause havoc, and in the process, also make sure that they don't get hurt, because she does not give a shit about these people and will just she'll use their horns to sand off the edges of her bed or use their bodies as bedding. It is so funny, so crazy, so silly, but it's also really cute. It's got some fantastic art, and even the anime, I know I was kind of trashing on it a little bit, saying it wasn't as funny. Still a fantastic adaptation. Still highly recommend both series. And lastly, I want to bring up Great Priest Imhotep, which is about an ancient Egyptian priest named Imhotep, if you couldn't already tell from the title. He is brought back to life 200 years after his death in order to defeat these demon things called magi. That's as much as I can give away without going into some spoiler territory, and I really don't want to do that because I think you all should read this for yourself. It is such a good shonen series. It's so funny. The action bits are great, and it just really gives me a early 2000s anime vibe. It just has all the elements that I like in a shonen manga, with some character tropes that are comfy and nice and fill their roles well. You have a nice balance of comedy and action, and you have a pretty interesting plot with the Magi and all this Egyptian stuff that plays into the narrative. If you're looking for a classic feeling shonen, it doesn't get much better than Imhotep. But hey, here's the part of the video where I get to talk about me and the future and all that jazz. This year was pretty interesting in terms of YouTube for me, where I feel like I didn't put out as many videos as I would have liked. A lot of videos got scrapped after I record them, and then I was like, that was trash, and then I delete them. So I didn't put out as many videos as I would have liked, but when I looked back on the videos that I did put out this year, I enjoyed them. I think that they were some pretty funny videos, some videos that you can go back and are a bit evergreen. You know, you can watch them at any time of the year and I can be like, that was a good video. I also did a lot of drawing this year. Follow me on Twitter if you want to see all my art when it goes up. But I think I've improved over this year. I definitely made some pieces that I enjoy, some stuff that I can still look back on many months later and be like, that was a pretty good piece that I made. So here's some of my favorite art that I made. If I had some resolutions for next year, it would definitely be to make more videos. I know, because a lot of those videos that I scrapped were fine. It's just I have something in my head where after I'm done recording something, I'm like, that was garbage, and then it doesn't get into the editing phase. Usually, if I take a video into the editing phase, I realize that it's not as bad as I think, and then it actually gets out there. So I just need to be less picky about my videos, I think, and release more stuff. And I want to do more animation next year. It's funny because I'm trying to become an animation major. I'm trying to get into these art schools, and I haven't actually done that much animation, despite being in an animation class that my school offers. We haven't actually done that much animation, so I'm like, maybe I should actually make some stuff. I've been working on this one thing for a little bit. I'll play it here. It's a little Sonic animation of him kicking a Motobug. So that's what I've been working on recently. But I want to do more little stuff like that, maybe work on some bigger stuff for next year. Speaking of the new year though, I want to also go over some stuff that is coming down the pipeline for 2021. I'm doing a Nintendo predictions video pretty soon. I think that'll be up next week, where we're just talking about some predictions, some hopes I have for Nintendo's year this year. One of them already came true, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to edit that into the video. We're also going to be talking about Sonic's 30th anniversary, because that's pretty exciting. Got some big ideas there, some ideas, hopes, dreams that are bound to be crushed. I also have this series that I've been planning on for quite a while. It's a little video series combining my art and my video into one series idea thing. I've been working on it for quite a while, and it's slowly making some progress, and I'm hoping to have that out early this year, just like the first episode, and we'll see if if we can continue the series, if you guys really enjoy it. But it's something I've been really excited about. It's something I've been wanting to show off for quite a while, and I think we're finally getting into that phase where it's about to become a real video, a real thing that I can produce. So get hyped for that. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, click like button, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Happy New Year, and I'll see you all later. Peace.